All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. So a bit of sad news. If you're a Doobie Brothers fan, the Doobies have canceled 4 concert dates. And I had reported on the fact that Michael McDonald was recuperating and isolating at home. The article, though, mentioned that he had an illness, but according to the Star Tribune, it's a paper from Minneapolis, McDonald sat out the band's most recent show, a performance Tuesday at the Minnesota State Fair, because he had come down with the thing. Now, what's odd is these guys like to tell everybody that, don't worry, Michael did the thing. He did the thing. And, you know, the show must go on. But now we've got one of the crew who has also tested positive for the thing. And the Doobie Brothers will be canceling 4 concert dates, much like what Kiss did when both Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons tested for the thing. So again, first of all, wishing Michael McDonald a speedy recovery. Didn't know exactly what was going on, but I assumed, and I didn't want to jump the gun. It almost sounds as like they didn't want to tell anybody about it. A friend of mine by the name of Steve said he saw the Doobies back on the 28th. He said that Michael is not a well man. He sounded great, but physically speaking, he's very much out of shape, not just a little. He tends to walk hunched over and one step away from needing help on and off stage, although his attitude is great. And he seems to be very happy to be on tour with these guys. And he's looking forward to taking it through 2022. Anyway, look, I know it's controversial to say this. It's controversial basically to open your mouth and not agree with what everybody else is saying. So note to self, it's what I do. And so I shouldn't even, have to warn you all, but it would be a good idea to try to take care of yourself a little more at this stage if you're constantly living in fear. You need to take control of your situation the best you can, because obviously this thing that they're telling you to get isn't work. It's a failure. It's an abject failure. There's no other way to say it. Now, again, you'll hear the argument, well, at least he's not, below ground right now. At least he's still, breathing. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, but what happens in 4 or 5 months? What happens in a year when they're going to tell you, well, you need another thing. We're glad you did that thing, but it's not enough. And folks, I've been saying this now for quite some time. When does this end? When does this end? And then you're going to come back with me and say, well, what should we do then? Well, there are other ways to handle this. And obviously, you're not going to hear that. And if I start to talk about it, it's going to be, sorry, this video is mis and disinformation. And, when people's lives are at risk, you would think that we would be all hands on deck trying to figure this out. And the American spirit of the past used to be, we've got a problem. Let's see if we can figure it out. Let's find a workaround. Let's find an alternative. But the word alternative now is even like, did you just say alternative? No, I'm not talking about alternative rock. All right. I'm not talking about like Susie and the Banshees. All right. I'm talking about, other ways to deal with this particular problem, which people are saying, well, there are people out there, they're using a deworming medication to deworm animals. And, you're not a horse. So get with the program, y'all. Stop doing that. Stop doing it. Really? Okay. Well, this doesn't seem to be having any, let's put it this way. This has no long-term benefit. At the very least, this has no long-term benefit. At the very worst, this could do catastrophic damage long-term, short-term even, but definitely long-term. And then the advice of the short guy who runs everything is, well, you're just going to need to take another one of these things. You're going to have to do it again and again and again every 5 months. And a guy like Michael McDonald at his age and in his condition, that's the only solution to his problem. Very strange. And I think it's criminal that people aren't allowed to share information or hear information. Now, if you're a rebel like me, supposedly I'm a rebel. I'm not. I'm just some guy who's who's really scared of the world right now. You might be able to, do some research using like DuckDuckGo, okay, and maybe just put out there some information, like a search, and then you might come up with some things that you haven't heard about before. All right. Although the rock media does report on this, like Paul Shortino did something and they said, it's a deworming medication for chickens, I mean, they make it sound like it's the worst. Why would you do that to yourself? Really? You think that's bad compared to what people are doing to themselves now? Does anybody have a list of ingredients they want to share with me? Because I'd love to see it. I'd love to see that. That would be so amazing that someone would share a list of ingredients with me. And then I go, oh, and then I could look up the ingredients and see what they are and see if they're safe and see, all that good stuff. But this is why I talk about informed consent, and people I trust these people. I trust the short guy. He's been right. Yeah, he has been so wrong. And yet people just continue this insanity, expecting, a different result, saying the same thing every day and expecting a different result. We wish Michael McDonald and the Doobie's crew good health, speedy recovery, safety, all that stuff, because this is a great American band. Why they weren't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 10 to 15 years ago, absolutely criminal. And then they had their ceremony was canceled, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony where they were supposed to be inducted, or I don't know if it was broadcast. I don't remember seeing it. And, the Eagles were in, Chicago was in. You look at all these American bands that were in, and for whatever reason, they just waited and waited on the Doobie Brothers way too long. Such great material. I'm a big fan. I like Michael McDonald, but I'm a real big fan of Tom Johnston and Pat Simmons, and their work with the band early on, and that sound that they really pioneered, which fuses, blues, country, rock, R&B, jazz, pretty much every form of music is blended into the Doobie sound, at least traditional forms of music. I'm not talking about rap or anything like that. So again, great American band, Michael McDonald, great American vocalist. And hopefully the Doobies will be back. But if this continues, I can't see the concert industry allowing bands to just keep, quarantining, and then, you cancel 4 dates. I mean, you sell tickets, you book these large venues, right? I mean, I know there's liability, and this is why they cancel dates, because there's obvious liability, and nobody wants to get the blame for having a concert which causes a big problem. So it might be virtual concerts making a comeback. Oh boy, can't wait for that. Anyway, talk to you soon.